A man was shot to death early Sunday morning after police say he mistakenly entered the wrong apartment. It happened in an apartment complex at 1317 Scottsville Road in Bowling Green just after 1 a.m. A resident had called dispatch telling them someone was kicking in the door to their apartment. The person got in and were then shot and killed by the resident. According to BGPD, the intruder was 23-year-old Matthew Maggart, another resident of the complex. They believe he was impaired and entered the apartment on accident.
Look, I get it. This is an absolute unmitigated tragedy. In any way that you can describe it, it's not only a tragedy for the person that got killed, it's also a tragedy for the person who had to do the killing, more or less. A 23-year-old man, Matthew Maggart, was shot and killed after police say he mistakenly entered the wrong apartment. This happened in Bowling Green, Kentucky, just after 1 a.m. A resident called 911 saying someone was kicking in their door. The person got inside and the resident shot him. Police say Maggart was impaired. The investigation is ongoing. Now, I don't blame the resident whatsoever. We have a constitutional right to protect ourselves with firearms, and in many states, we have what's called the Castle Doctrine, which allows us to defend ourselves in our homes. If I'm sitting at home and someone starts kicking in my door, I don't have to ask why. When you kick in my door and barge into my home, I have every right to shoot you if I live in a Castle Doctrine state. Now, I have a couple of questions. I get it. The kid was impaired. He was drunk. Whatever the case may be, that doesn't excuse it, but how drunk do you have to be to not realize your key card or your key or your fob isn't working and then decide to start kicking the door in? Even in my drunkest states, I've never thought, hey, let me just kick the door down because I can't open it. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Something about this seems a little suspicious if you ask me. This hits close to home because I've been in this exact situation almost to the T. The only difference is the person wasn't kicking in my door, so to speak. They were just trying to open it aggressively and ramming it with their shoulder. Now, I was at home one night. I got a ring notification on my phone and saw a guy at my door telling me to let him in. Of course, I wasn't gonna do that. But then I saw him actively trying to open the door. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, this guy is literally trying to get into my house. Am I armed? Absolutely. And now he's not just trying to open it, he's trying to shoulder his way in. So I called the police and I told them someone was trying to break into my house. I had no idea why he was doing this. Maybe he was drunk. I lived in an area where a lot of people were partying, but it was 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And here's this guy trying to force his way into my house. I had my rifle ready, waiting to see if he was actually going to kick in the door before the police arrived. Luckily, they showed up and the guy took off. But I've been there and I completely understand why this resident did what they did. Now, let's be honest. The family of the guy who got shot is probably going to sue the resident. That's just the world we live in. Even if you're completely in the right legally, you can still end up in court. Our legal system is expensive. Lawyers aren't cheap. Even when you win, you're still stuck with all the stress and financial burden. So whenever I do these self-defense videos and I shamelessly plug USCCA, there's a reason I do that. Yes, they are a sponsor of my channel, but the main reason why I do it is because I want people to understand that self-defense is complex. It's not as cut and dry as people think. Getting a gun, learning to use it, being aware and being ready to protect yourself, that's already a shit ton. But then you have to think about the legal side of things, and trust me, you don't want to deal with that alone. Our court system is expensive. Lawyers are expensive. Fighting a legal case is stressful. I genuinely believe USCCA is the best option for self-defense coverage from a comprehensive standpoint. They provide education, training, and legal protection if you ever have to use a firearm in self-defense. But if you don't want to go with USCCA, that's fine. Just go with something. There are other companies out there, and I don't care which one you choose as long as you have some kind of protection. Because trust me, you don't get to pick and choose the situation you end up in. This resident didn't pick and choose to be in a situation where they had to use a firearm to defend themselves, but it happened. And now they may have to deal with the legal battle on top of everything else. So if you carry, protect yourself physically and legally. If you want to learn more about USCCA membership, I'll put a link in the description section. But even if you don't go with them, get something. Because in a self-defense situation, your fight doesn't end when the threat is stopped. That's just where the legal fight begins. One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.